Just recently, the federal government approved new aviation threshold charges for ground handling companies after 35 years since it last amended the rates. The new charges will bring relief for ground handlers and their customers. Before now, ground handling companies lamented over low operating charges, which they said could drive many operators out of business. And this is just as cargo demand is returning to pre-COVID levels. The ground handling and cargo subsector is our interest on the program. Plus, the United Kingdom and the United States reopen flights. A warm welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketsumbi, and our background report is next. Loading of cargo on the airside of the international airport in Lagos. In July, the International Air Transport Association stated that global air cargo market is showing that demand continued in its strong growth. Cargo consists of bulk goods conveyed by air. Freight is cargo that is transported at a freight rate for commercial gain. Cargo is also used as a term in the case of goods in the cold chain because the perishable inventory is always in transit towards a final end use, even when it is held in cold storage or other similar climate-controlled facility. From the IATA statistics in July, economic conditions indicate that the strong growth trend will continue into the peak year-end demand period.
Cargo is picking up back to the 2019 figures, and that's the truth. We have more cargo airlines. We even have more passenger and cargo airlines coming back into the country. As you have known, United is coming back to Nigeria, and they come with both passenger and cargo. And more of these airlines are increasing their frequencies, and they come with both passenger and cargo. So the business is picking back, and Nigerians have not been afraid of COVID-19. We have been meeting most of the PCR tests. Nigerians have accepted it, and if you check the statistics, it shows that Nigerians are beginning to travel back as usual.
While cargo remains a strong major subsector and a key business for ground handling companies, it appears that the previous agitation that aircraft handling rates be at par with that of other countries in Africa may finally be yielding fruits.
It's maintained. There is no regulation regarding that. So that is why all the current handling companies operate according to their own commercial or market negotiations or what have you. So there is no regulation to say that you must do this, you must do that. This is the first time in that 35 years that we have achieved that far. We have gone that far to ensure standardization and endorsement of the regulator with regards to the handling rates.
Recently, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority approved rates of between $1,500 and $5,000 for passenger and cargo flights. These rates will apply both for narrow and wide-body aircraft, respectively. While domestic operators will now pay between 20,000 and 70,000 naira, depending on the aircraft type.
There is actually a serious link, serious handshake between profitability and safety. If you are not profitable, if you don't have requisite or adequate revenue, how will you invest in innovative technology, in modern equipments, in quality manpower?
While the safety threshold ground handling charges for international and domestic operations will become effective on the 1st of October 2021 and the 1st of January 2022 respectively, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority believes it's time to scale up.
It's ridiculous. Why should I be charging $400 in Nigeria when my neighbor countries are charging $4,000? And you expect the ground handlers to give you the same service? That's not feasible. We just, and these charges that were done is a reflection of what is in the ECOWAS region. So we did not, NCA did not just wake up and say, airlines start paying this. There was significant consultative meetings that included the AOC, air service operators, that's the foreign airlines, AON, the Nigerian domestic operators, and also the Association of Ground Handlers Association of Nigeria.
To ensure that the rates are applicable, the narrow-body aircraft are categorized as the Boeing 737, the Airbus A320, the ER-135, and the ATR. While wide-body aircraft are the Boeing 767, the Airbus 330, the Boeing 777, the Boeing 747, and the Boeing 787. For a critical stakeholder, the impact of the new rates will not be lost on the economy. Stakeholders are also working as a body to ensure that the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority's regulation on safety threshold ground handling charges are binding. For the industry regulator, it says its goal is to encourage an enabling environment to attract capital inflow into the sector through local and foreign investors, as well as encourage healthy competition among the players without compromising safety, security, and the economic interest of the nation.
One thing about the aviation of today, the minister is doing, projecting very well, is open sky, safe open sky. And when you talk about safety, safety can be compromised on ground. Now, when you have a ground handling, the first point of call when you come to ground handling, aircraft handling is on the ground. If you compromise safety on the ground, who knows what happens when the plane is on air? So the federal government feel that, see, the rate you guys are charging may compromise safety. Apart from the fact that the government is also losing economically, it started with the economic oversight of all the agencies. And they have to protect the industry and protect the federal government in terms of the revenue generated. So NSA is now saying, see, I'm not fixing price for you guys. Go sit down with the stakeholders, justify according to AKO, have series of meetings with them. I will mediate, but I will not tell you. What I'm going to do that for my own safety issue, don't go below this. But if you want to go above, if you're able to negotiate with your customers, fine. But for my own and for the interest of the Nigerians, safety-wise, don't go below this. And I think NCA is also acting within the Civil Aviation Act that established the agency, because I know that Part 18 of Civil Aviation Act also empower them to do economic regulation, apart from safety regulation. The ground handling company pay 5% concessionary fee to the government through fund. And I'll give you a scenario, an Illusion maybe 62 that was operated in Nigeria 3 weeks ago. I can show you how government is losing money. If you now aggregate all this together, in chart, the GSA paid $7,000. And the 5% of the government is $350. The same operation in Ghana is $4,000. The 5% of $4,000, we're looking at $200. But this same, due to the weak position, due to the fact that this sector of aviation is not regulated, of course, and the weak position of ground handling company, they operated it at $400. And 5% to the government is $20. No government will fold his or her hand and allow capital flight. Everybody is looking at how to bring in capital into the country. So economically, the government is losing. Again, the ground handlers too are also losing. That's what we call service level agreement, which is universal. With meager income, they can buy equipment, modern equipment that will facilitate good service delivery. It is the same ground handling company that paid this, and these are set up by IATA. So with good financial backing, I think they will be able to compete globally. And at the same time, I also think that they will be able to retain the profit and create employment. Good service delivery, the airlines are going to benefit, the rate of incidents will even reduce.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, the air transport sector in Nigeria and other African countries lost $7.7 billion in 2020 due to restrictions put in place by governments to curb the spread of the virus. 7 million employees suffered as a result, while 8 airlines went bankrupt in Africa. A year after the federal government reopened Nigeria's airspace to international travel after the COVID-19 lockdown, data from the Airport Authority in Nigeria shows that traffic remains at 40% of 2019 levels, as passenger movement stood at 157,689 between January and June 2021. Over 14,000 domestic flights were operated in the first quarter of 2021. It's also projected that passenger traffic would continue to rise as more people prefer to travel by air. An airline official says aircraft capacity is sometimes between 80% and 90%.
I can say that we're getting back gradually, kind of. We can't say we're there yet, but we're getting back gradually. At the moment, we're doing about 80%, and with the likelihood of getting to 90%, but the issues are still there. By the time you're doing very well, there's one issue, forex issue, that is still taking back the funds. Your maintenance cost is increasing. We earn in naira, and everything we do is in dollars.
While the rise in passengers' traffic should lead to an increase in flight frequency, the reverse is the case, as the issue of foreign exchange and price of jet A1 impacts heavily.
Without fuel, you can't even operate to start with. So it's a variable that doesn't really matter to you. If you want to operate your schedule, you have to buy fuel. So that's why I'm saying it's difficult to talk about profitability, because you have to look at the 100% increase in the cost of fuel, the astronomical depreciation of the naira versus the dollar. All of these are variables that are going to affect the profitability of airlines. So we're trying to manage that through managing of our revenue yield per passenger.
With new airlines plying their trade on the domestic scene, this is added to aircraft capacity.
Our passenger numbers are constantly increasing and our load factors are very high. So we're experiencing a huge passenger surge on our flights, but I don't know if it translates into more passengers across the industry. So we're trying to manage the yield on our revenue, but yes, we have a surge in passenger numbers. Our flights, we just put on new capacity, and the capacity is filled up. So it's a very good sign. But with regards to profitability, we'll have to see, because we're struggling with the exchange rate and the price of fuel, and so many things have just gone up astronomically.
Beyond the new airlines on the domestic scene, some believe that Nigeria still needs more operating aircraft. With the current economic situation, not many can afford to travel by air owing to the low purchasing power. Despite the challenges, air travel remains the safest choice of movement in the country because of insecurity and poor road infrastructure.
When Aviation this week returns, the United Kingdom and the United States reopen their flight corridor. Do join us again.
Britain has simplified rules for international travel to the country in a boost for the tourism industry, including scrapping the need for fully vaccinated passengers to take expensive COVID-19 tests on arrival from low-risk countries. The British government sets policy for England, while Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland are in charge of their own rules.
The other thing I'm announcing today is there's going to be over 50 countries where we're going to recognize their vaccine programs, in addition to the EU and the United States. So many other countries now will come into that regime where people can come here and they won't need to take PCR tests and self-isolate. So it's really a big change today, aimed at making this a lot easier, simpler, and much less expensive with a settled system through to the new year at the earliest.
Under the new proposals, destinations will simply be ranked low or high risk instead of red, amber and green from October 4th. Passengers arriving from low-risk countries will be permitted to take a cheaper lateral flow test rather than the privately administered PCR lab tests now required.
Now we've got so many people, perhaps 9 out of 10 adults vaccinated, it does give us some additional freedoms that we didn't really have before. One of those is that we can drop the pre-departure tests. Another is that we can drop the expensive PCR tests on day 2 when people got back from abroad. But we will still require people to buy and use a lateral flow test. Everyone knows they're much more straightforward. They're inexpensive. You do the test at home, you see the result at home within minutes. If that is positive, then we would require people to take a PCR test on the NHS, just like anybody else in the country, and then follow the guidance as normal.
Airlines and travel companies have argued for months that far-reaching changes were needed to the system, or more job losses would follow the 100,000 already lost. Now to the United States, which plans to reopen to air travelers from China, India, Britain and many other European countries who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 from November 2021. There will be some exceptions to the vaccine policy. Children not yet eligible to be vaccinated will not have to comply, and the new rules do not yet apply to travelers crossing land borders with Mexico and Canada. The US has been under intense pressure to ease restrictions, particularly on UK travelers. Travel across the Atlantic is one of the world's busiest and most lucrative international routes. Britain started allowing fully vaccinated US travelers to enter the country in August.
Today I'm particularly pleased that we're also meeting just when we've made the announcement on the lifting of travel restrictions, which is something we've been talking about for some time. I'm very pleased that we're able to have that with us, and also to get going on a lot of work that we have to do together. So welcome, so very good to be with you.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much, Secretary Blinken. It's fantastic to be here on my first overseas visit since being appointed as Foreign Secretary last week, and we welcome hugely the lifting of the travel ban, the ability of vaccinated UK citizens to travel to the United States, which will help our trade and our business relationships, but also families who want to travel across the Atlantic. And I'm delighted to be meeting you to talk about how we deepen further our very important partnership in areas, of course, like the economy, but also our mutual security. So fantastic to be here.
Thank you.
Shares of major US airlines with international routes, Delta, American and United, were modestly higher early in the week.
Locals on Bali Island are cautiously optimistic about an uptick in business in the coming months after officials announced that COVID-19 social restrictions on the island will be downgraded to allow for some tourist destinations to be opened. The country's once thriving holiday hotspot has been quiet after Indonesia was struck by one of the worst outbreaks of COVID-19 in Asia, but cases have declined significantly in the past months.
Dan juga pemerintah Bali supaya
our hope is the virus spread can be kept under control so that we can reach a 80 to 90% vaccination rate, and then we can start to open for international tourists as they will have the confidence to come to Bali.
I hope the local governments can keep negotiating with the central government to let Bali stay open so that all of my relatives, including my kids, brothers and sisters, can go back to work.
This time in Langkawi, a cluster of 99 islands in the Straits of Malacca, which has also reopened to fully vaccinated travelers as part of a domestic tourism bubble, with strict protocols in place to thwart the spread of the coronavirus. Restaurant owner Esther Lee says she was excited the bubble was finally being launched.
We actually feel really excited and happy because finally we can welcome customer, and this is actually our main source of income to actually survive and sustain this place, because we have like staff under us, we have overhead costs to bear, so we definitely need dine-in customer to actually support our business.
Langkawi, known for its beaches, geoparks, bird life and rock formations, is not expecting huge numbers initially, with 400,000 visitors targeted by the end of the year and spending of 165 million ringgit, which is about $39.66 million.
We are only targeting around 200,000 tourist arrivals. We still do not want congestion, even though we need a high number of tourists. What is important is that we can control the tourists to ensure their compliance with the rules so that we can prevent the spread of COVID-19 on Langkawi Island.
Malaysia is a Southeast Asian country occupying parts of the Malay Peninsula and the island of Borneo. It's known for its beaches, rainforests and mix of Malay, Chinese, Indian and European culture influences. A flight simulator is a device that artificially recreates aircraft flights and the environment in which it flies for pilot training, design or other purposes. It includes replicating the equations that govern how aircraft fly, how they react to applications of flight controls, and how the aircraft reacts to external factors such as air density, turbulence, and wind shear. In the East African country of Kenya, a Dash 8 Q400 simulator has been installed to help train pilots. It's a move its main user, Kenya's first low-cost airline, Jambojet, hopes will help it cut costs incurred by flying pilots abroad for training.
By international, the coordinates are correct.
The simulator in operation is based on a 2019 deal between FSI, Kenya Airways and Jambojet. Kenya Airways is the country's national carrier, while Jambojet is its no-frills subsidiary. FSI is among the world's leading producers of flight simulators.
So do you see where this arrow is?
Chief pilot Michael Kwinga of Kenya low-cost airline Jambojet climbs into a newly operational Flight Safety International Dash 8 400 simulator. After the required checks and under the watchful eye of Flight Inspector Joseph Strong, Kwinga takes off.
As you can tell, if I'm training to go to Dubai International, I can actually do it over here.
It has enhanced navigation system, it has enhanced visual system. So the learning experience for this particular simulator here in Nairobi is quite fulfilling. As a flight crew member also as well, who is based over in Nairobi, it means less travel time, obviously, for me to be able to quickly move from the working line operations and the line environment to come to their training environment at the ease of me just driving over here in Nairobi without having the extra travel, and be able to quickly turn around back onto the flight line to continue with normal flight operations.
Jambojet's new fleet of 5 de Havilland Canada DHC-8 aircraft, known as Dash 8 around the world, are critical parts of the regional airline strategy to recover from the job and pay cuts it had to make as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
This is where our flight lands. It's bye for now. I'm Bukola Jo Ketumbi.